Harry planted his flag in South Korea on Monday, announcing that the 2029 Invictus Games will be held in Daejeon. One problem. Anne spent last week doing actual royal work in that exact country, and the internet noticed the order of events. And Korea is only the opening act because Meghan is reportedly fuming over a half-in comeback. Harry's new Echo boss compares frequent flyers to drunk drivers. Netflix left her show off its own Emmy party list. And Fergie's 40-year fairy tale got an autopsy. Welcome back, my Royal Rogues. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue. Let's get down to it. Now, let's start in Daejeon because on paper, this is the biggest Invictus announcement in years. On Monday, Harry declared himself delighted to reveal that the Republic of Korea, not North Korea, South Korea, will host the 2029 Games in October of that year, the first Asian nation ever to do so. Birmingham hosts next summer, and at its closing ceremony, the Invictus flag passes to Daejeon, which carries it for 2 years. The official language calls it an exciting new chapter, a chance to strengthen understanding and support for the military community across Asia, and to showcase what sport can do for rehabilitation, recovery, and lifelong well-being. On the merits, fine. Korea is a serious choice, the first Asian host in the history of the Games, and the veterans who competed deserve a serious host. If the announcement had landed in an empty week, this would be an easy story to applaud. But it did not land on an empty week. Now rewind, I think 4 days, or 3 or 4 days. The palace had announced Anne's trip to South Korea, and last week she and Sir Tim Lawrence walked through Busan and Seoul. She met veterans of the Korean War. She stood at the United Nations Memorial Cemetery for the 75th anniversary commemorations of the Battle of the Imjin River, where British soldiers held a hill until the ammunition ran out. She toured HD Hyundai Heavy Industries, one of the largest shipbuilders on the planet, carrying the maritime and defense relationship between London and Seoul. Quite glamorous and useful, the kind of wig that never trends. The Royal Watchers called the trip a model of what high-level representation looks like, promoting British economic interests and honoring the veterans in the same visit, and read it as proof of how much the King trusts his sister with the missions that matter. Then Monday arrives, Anne's Korea headlines barely called, and Harry's operation drops its own Korea announcement into the same news cycle. Yeah, the reaction wrote itself. People pointed out that host cities are decided long in advance, that he chose this precise window, and that for a man who left royal life, he times his releases like a man who never stopped competing with it. So to keep the scale honest, plenty of replies were simply thrilled for Korea, and that joy is legitimate. But remember where this lands. The petition demanding his removal from any formal Invictus role passed 6,500 signatures over the weekend, accusing him of turning veterans into a backdrop. His answer, in effect, was to book a bigger backdrop. So one family sent a woman to Korea to honor the dead. The other sent a press release to borrow her spotlight. And from the stagecraft to the tug-of-war inside Montecito Manor, because the comeback story I told you about yesterday grew 2 new chapters overnight, and they contradict each other in the most revealing way. Some context before the gossip, because the hard facts are not in dispute. Harry lost his high court claim against the Home Office last year. Ravek keeps him on reduced protection when he visits, and Archie and Lily have barely seen Britain since the family moved to California in 2020. That is the board the new briefings are played on. Chapter 1 comes from Radar, single unnamed sources, so yeah, take it with a grain of salt, weigh it accordingly. Their reporting on Monday says Meghan is privately fuming because the Highgrove reunion reignited Harry's old dream of a half-in, half-out royal role. The sources paint him coming home from that visit aching for what he walked away from. His father as a grandfather, his children wandering a country that is part of their heritage. In their telling, he now believes it does not have to be all or nothing, and he intends to lobby the Home Secretary for a security arrangement that would let the family visit regularly. But Meghan's side of the briefing is blunt. They left for clear reasons, and opening that door, even a crack, lets everything crawl back in. The scrutiny, the politics, the pressure, but Meghan likes the scrutiny. But Chapter 2 arrived today through Rob Shooter on Sky News Australia. Again, single source, weigh it. In this version, Harry's compromise is not Britain at all. He reportedly sees Australia as the ideal place to set up home, an overseas role serving the king from a Commonwealth realm, royal duties of a kind without the London postcode. And Meghan, per that source, has no interest in moving back to Britain. Full stop. So, let's step back and admire the shape of this. Half in, half out is the exact proposal the late Queen heard at Sandringham in January 2020 and refused because you cannot be a royal on weekdays and commercial on weekends. And 6 years, one memoir, one Netflix confessional, and one lost security case later, the ask has circled all the way back to the beginning, except now the compromise location has drifted about 10,000 miles from Windsor, and the briefings can't even agree which hemisphere the surrender happens in. So when a couple negotiates through rival unnamed sources, the marriage has a comms strategy, and that tells you plenty. Speaking of things that do not survive contact with the paperwork, Harry's Echo travel firm made a hire. Richard Eden disclosed in his Daily Mail diary that Travelist, the sustainable tourism outfit Harry founded, quote-unquote, in 2019, has appointed Graham Miller as its new director. And Miller, back when he lectured at the University of Surrey in 2020, offered a memorable verdict on flying culture. There was a time when saying you'd flown back from Milan or New York made you sound sophisticated, and now it's like boasting that you drank 5 pints and drove home. All right, okay. Hold that sentence up against the founder's logbook. Travelist launched in 2019 with the founder proclaiming that every choice, every footprint, every action makes a difference, and within weeks, Harry and Meghan were reported to have taken 4 private jet trips in 11 days. His defense was that no one is perfect and we can all do better, followed that August by the private flight to Nice to visit Elton John, justified on the grounds that a unique circumstance occasionally requires keeping his family safe at 30,000 feet. In 2022, he stood before the United Nations and warned that climate change was wreaking havoc on our planet. In 2023, the Sausages took a 40-minute private flight from an airstrip near their home to watch Katy Perry in Las Vegas, and then rode a Falcon 7X 2,000 miles from New Jersey to the private Caribbean island of Canoan, and then took the same jet on to Atlanta. So the arithmetic of this hire is delicious. Either the new director genuinely applies his standard, in which case his first sustainability audit should start with the founder's hangar, or the standard quietly retires, and we learned that at Travelist, like everywhere else in the sausage empire, the rules are for the customers. The gingerbread has spent 7 years telling the world every footprint makes a difference, and he has now hired the one man in the industry who already published the punchline. From the hangar to the trophy shelf, because Netflix threw an Emmy party and Meghan's invitation appears to have been lost in the mail. Because after the primetime Emmy nominations, Netflix assembled a celebration collection on its own platform. The final season of Stranger Things, The Diplomat, Love on the Spectrum, the Rafael Nadal documentary, A Queer Eye, Love is Blind, Even This Is Not a Gardening Show, the Zach Galifianakis comedy made the list with its nomination for short-form nonfiction, the very category where a certain lifestyle program might have competed. Because With the Love, Meghan was absent. And the silence has a pattern because Netflix never publicly congratulated her on the daytime Emmy nomination either. The only congratulations came from Meghan herself on her own Instagram, saluting her amazing crew and team the week the nominations landed. So yeah, the numbers explain the distance. Season 1 ranked 383rd among the platform's most watched titles. Season 2, assembled from leftover footage the streamer had already paid for, landed somewhere between 1100 and 1200. The holiday special sank without a ripple, and the whole project was cancelled in January. And the daytime race she did make is its own footnote, an award ceremony that is no longer even televised, streamed on an app at the end of October, where her competition includes a dog grooming show called The Wizard of Paws. So anyone with an eligible program and the entry fee can submit, which is how the operation got its nomination in the first place, as I covered last week. And meanwhile, the promotional machine rolls on toward Sunday, when her MasterChef Australia episode airs, and the reports around it are their own little mask slip. She was reportedly unhappy that the judges introduced her as MasterChef royalty in a welcome that billed her from sunny California under the title she married into. So, yeah, sit with that complaint for a second. The objection was not to being on a cooking show. It was to the word royalty from a woman whose entire commercial identity depends on that word appearing in every press release. Yeah, I don't understand either. Tom Slater put it plainly on Sky News Australia. The pair have spent years trading on their titles as a cheat code into the celebrity A-list. So, objecting to the word royalty while arriving billed as a duchess is the purest methane vintage, wanting the perch and the modesty prize for sitting on it. So yeah, the audience verdict arrives Sunday night. The Netflix verdict, it seems, already arrived. And finally, to Fergie, because of the longest running cover story in royal life collapsed in print this weekend. Andrew Loney, the author whose book charted the fall of the House of York, told the Daily Mail that the happiest divorced couple in the world routine was never a love story. It was a convenient cover that generated warm headlines while both parties had affairs before the confetti had settled. Per Loney, staying under Andrew's roof saved Fergie money, kept her royal connections warm, and burnished the money-making activities that ran on them. So the receipts are old, but the frame is new. The affair with Steve Wyatt while pregnant with Eugenie, the Morocco photographs, the toe-sucking financial advisor in Saint-Tropez. Why? No. Why? I don't deserve this. Well, and on the other side of the record, a former driver counting a dozen women through Andrew's door before their first wedding anniversary. Ho, 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 Randy Andy. Loney's coldest detail, Andrew reminded his wife that he was a prince first, a naval officer second, and a husband third. So Radar ran its own matching exclusive on the affair, so the knives are out in stereo. And the present tense makes the past tense credible, because Andrew, stripped of his prince title in October over the Epstein lies and arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office, has been moved out of Royal Lodge to Marsh Farm at Sandringham. Fergie is not going with him. She stayed in the Windsor area, surfaced at a £2,000 a night alpine ski lodge, and told friends that the fall from grace was hard on her mental health, while she hunted for a home her daughters could not provide. So royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams called the whole arrangement symbiotic and lucrative, an arrangement of convenience running since 2008 that let two greedy and entitled people live at a certain level. And he reached back to the fate chic sting when Fergie was caught offering access to Andrew for £500,000 as the moment the business model showed its face. So his verdict now? Yeah, the cover is blown. Because remember, this is the woman who told the world in 2018 that her wedding day was the happiest of her life, that her duty was to Andrew, that the Yorks were a united family living their own fairy tale. So 34 years of devotion dissolved the moment the address stopped being worth that. So here's today's record in one line. Every story was a cover story, and this was the week the covers wore through. I come back dressed as Family Feeling, an Echo Crusade with a private hangar, an awards celebration missing its own nominee, sorry Megan, and a fairy tale divorce that was a property arrangement wearing a smile. So the people doing the real work were in Busan at a war cemetery holding a flag with no camera crew in tow. George turns 13 tomorrow. The MasterChef episode lands Sunday and Birmingham is 1 year out. So yeah, the diary stays loaded. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue. Much love and bliss.